The manila folder slid across Mark Wilson's desk with a soft whisper. He looked up to find the new CEO standing before him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. 15 years ago, you fixed my mother's car for free when we couldn't afford it. You never knew that ride got me to the scholarship interview that changed my life. The office fell silent as recognition dawned on his weathered face. Sometimes the universe has a way of bringing life full circle in the most unexpected way. If you're touched by stories of kindness coming back in beautiful ways, hit that like button and subscribe to see more real-life inspirations that remind us how our smallest actions can change someone's world forever. Mark Wilson wiped the sweat from his brow as he hunched over the engine of the battered Honda Civic. The afternoon sun beat down on the small auto repair shop where he'd worked for the past 12 years. At 42, his hands were calloused and permanently stained with engine grease, but they moved with the precision of someone who understood machines better than most people understood themselves. Dad, Emma's hungry again. 8-year-old Tyler appeared at the garage entrance, his little sister's hand clutched in his. At 6, Emma was all pigtails and missing teeth, her face smudged with what looked like peanut butter. Mark checked his watch and sighed. It was nearly 7, and he'd promised them dinner an hour ago. Being a single father to 2 young children while running the service department at Wilson's Auto wasn't easy, but they were his world. 3 years had passed since cancer took their mother, and every day was still a balancing act. Just give me 15 more minutes, Buddy. This lady really needs her car by morning. As if summoned by his words, a thin woman in her early 30s approached hesitantly from the waiting area. Her clothes were clean but worn, and the worry lines around her eyes spoke of someone carrying too many burdens. Mr. Wilson? I'm sorry to bother you, but I was wondering how much longer it might be? My daughter has an important meeting tomorrow morning, and we really need the car. Mark straightened up, wiping his hands on a rag. Mrs. Reyes, right? I'm almost done. Just replacing the timing belt and water pump. So'll be ready in about 20 minutes. Relief washed over her face, but it quickly clouded again. And, about the payment plan we discussed. Mark had quoted her nearly $800 for parts and labor, a fair price, but he'd seen the panic in her eyes when he'd mentioned the figure. She'd asked about payment options in a voice that trembled slightly. Actually, I've been thinking about that. Mark glanced at his own children, then back at Mrs. Reyes. Something in her desperate determination reminded him of himself. The parts were cheaper than I expected. Let's call it $400 even. Her eyes widened. But you said. I know what I said, but I'm the boss here. He smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. Sometimes I give myself a discount when I feel like it. Even at $400, he could see her mentally calculating, wondering if she had enough in her account. Man. A teenage girl appeared beside Mrs. Reyes. She was maybe 16 or 17, with the same dark eyes as her mother but with a fierce intelligence burning in them. Is everything okay? Yes, Sophia. Mr. Wilson says the car will be ready soon. Mark noticed the folder clutched in the girl's hands, Princeton University, the cover read. Dreams and ambitions, he thought. He remembered having those once. Big interview tomorrow, he asked the girl. Sophia nodded, her posture straightening with pride despite her obvious nervousness. Scholarship interview. If I get it, I can study engineering. First in my family to go to college. Mark looked at the mother and daughter, then at his own children waiting patiently by the office door. He made a decision in that moment that he couldn't fully explain, even to himself. You know what? He just remembered we're running a special this week. Single parents get their first major repair free. He turned back to the engine before Mrs. Reyes could protest. Consider it an investment in future engineers. Later that night, after tucking his children into bed, Mark sat at his kitchen table staring at his bills. He'd have to pick up extra shifts to make up for the repair he'd just given away, but somehow, he couldn't bring himself to regret it. There was something about that girl's determined eyes that told him she was going places. Sometimes, you just had to put a little faith in the universe. 15 years passed in the blink of an eye. Mark's children grew up. Tyler followed in his father's footsteps, developing a passion for mechanics that made Mark's heart swell with pride. Emma became a teacher, her gentle nature perfect for guiding young minds. Mark himself had